Oh, hi there. What I want to do in this video is just go through some ideas that I've seen online on other videos, and I just want to make some of them really clear regarding grade, total fall, and length. These kind of topics come up when we're talking about a lot of trades math, especially related to plumbing or landscaping. A grade is, sorry, that pen there doesn't really show up. A grade is really just talking about this right here. This is our grade. It's like the angle or the degree, or sometimes it's a percent. Um, it has to do with how steep a line is. So if you have a slope and you want water to move away from a house, that's a grade. If you have a toilet up here and you want everything, the wastewater as we call it, to flow downhill, then that is the grade. And you have to have the proper grade. It can't be too steep and it can't be too shallow or things are not going to be good. So grade is this angle or this percent, and there's different ways to write it, and I'll talk about that in a second. It's how steep this line is right here. Okay? It could be a pipe or it could be land, blah, blah, blah. Total fall, that is this distance right here. Sometimes it's referred to as TF or just the fall. Total fall is the distance, vertical line straight down from here to here. How far it goes from where it began up here. And there's a horizontal line right along here. We call that the length. And these three things, length, grade, and total fall, are what we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to talk about how to solve problems when it comes to that, okay? But just so we quickly talk about grade a little bit more, grade can be shown in three different ways. Commonly a percent, or normally I don't do my percent sign with dots, but that's a percent sign. It would go right there. The most common grade for plumbing in Ontario, Canada, is 2%. That is the most common slope, or the most common grade of for plumbing. And 2%, it's a really slow slope. On a level, and let's go look at our level here. I have a picture to show you. Here is a level. There we go. A horizontal line, a line that's completely flat, is going to have the bubble right in the middle. But notice this particular level right here. There's more lines than just one. Well, guess what? These lines have to do with grade. So often it is that the very first line over, if you were to let the level move to this line right here where I'm pointing, that would be a 1% grade. And if you moved it over here to this line, that would be a 2% grade. And the 2% grade, like I said, is the most common in Ontario for building code. All right? So one way to show grade is percent. Now remember, in this video, you're going to have to know how to change percent into a decimal. So as a decimal, percent would be 0.02. And changing a percent to a decimal is something that I'm assuming you already know how to do in this video. Okay? Now the other way to show grade, the other way to show grade is as a fraction or a ratio. So as a ratio, I'll write the word ratio here. For example, 2% could be shown as a ratio. 2% really means, as a ratio or a fraction, 2 out of percent. Well, 2 out of cent means 100. So 2 out of 100, if we were to reduce that fraction, divide the top and the bottom by 2, cut them in half, you would end up getting 1 over 50. So 1 over 50 is a pretty common grade, again, used in Ontario. I don't know if people use 1 over 50 very often because I'm not a plumber, but this is definitely a ratio, and it is the second way to show a grade. The third way to show a grade is this way, and this is very common in Ontario. They might say 1/4 inches, so 1/4 of an inch. Remember, this symbol here means inches, per, this big line means per, foot. So 1/4 inches per foot. That is very common. And by the way, let's quickly look at a 1/4 inches per foot. What if you were in a situation where you wanted to know the percent and you had a 1/4 inches per foot? Well, to figure out the percent, you need the units to be the same. We have inches on top, we have feet on the bottom. So instead of 1/4 inches per foot, you could say it's a 1/4 inches over, do you remember? 12 inches is the same thing as 1 foot. So to make the units the same, we just write 12 right there, 12 inches. And by the way, on your calculator, a 1/4 inches, well, a 1/4 is 0.25. So I'm going to pull up my handy dandy calculator. And 1 divided by 4, as I was just saying, is 0.25. So a 1/4 inches per foot, well, I would go 0.25 divided by 12. And guess what? As a percent, that would be 0.0208, and then the 3's go on forever. So as a percent, we would say, this is a decimal right now, as a percent we would move the decimal over 2 places, it would be about 2%. But as you can see, it's not exactly 2%, it's a little bit bigger than 2%. So it'd be 2.08333%. 2.0833, it just keeps going on forever, so I'll put that. That would be our percent, like that. Okay, we're going to deal with some problems where we have to solve some grade, total fall, and length questions on the next page. And let's go to the next page so that we can start to think about that. Okay, so here we have length, grade, and total fall. And what we're going to be introducing here is some formulas. It's actually one formula, but we're going to be rearranging it. And the way some places teach this formula is they show it in a triangle like this. And the way you would read this is total fall is equal to length times grade. Let's write that down. TF is equal to length times grade. That's what this little triangle here is supposed to show. But the reason why this triangle is shown in this way is what happens if you get a question where you're asked, what is the length? What happens if you have to know length? What would you do with total fall and grade? Well, this triangle kind of helps us to make this quick substitution here where we take total fall, you write that down, and it's not times the grade. As you can see, it's total fall over the grade, so it reminds us to divide, not times, so total fall divided by grade. This is just a handy dandy thing that some colleges will teach as a way of remembering how to deal with total fall, length, and grade questions. So what happens if you're asked to find the grade and you're given the other two things? What if you're given total fall and length? Well, if you're asked to find the grade, you would take total fall and divide by length. Total fall and divide by the length. So these are the 3 different forms of this same formula. Total fall equals length times grade. And let's put these to use now, because if I keep talking about these, you're going to get bored. We need to talk about some real life examples. So let's go to the next page and really use this. Here we go. If we have a 10-foot length, what would be the total fall if we had a 2% grade? Now remember, that symbol right there with a single line up here, that means feet, okay? For those of you that might have forgotten. Not inches. Inches is 2 of these, and feet is 1. So anyway, they're asking what is the total fall? So we look at our little triangle and we say total fall is equal to length times grade. Okay? So what is the length here? There we are. It's 10 feet. Length is 10 feet. We're going to multiply that by the grade. It's a 2% grade. Now, whenever you're dealing with percent, always change the percent into a decimal. So 0.02 is how we change a percent into a decimal. You move the decimal over 2 places to get this, or you could say you divide by 100. Either way, you get 0.02, and I have to assume you've already learned that And I have that on other videos if you need to know. Okay? When you multiply 10 feet times this decimal right here, our answer is still going to be in feet. Okay? Because this is just 2%. It's not going to mess up our unit, which is feet. Okay? So you just take your calculator, you clear what we had before, and we just go 10 times 0.02, or 0.02. And we get 0.2. We could have done that in our heads, but I just wanted to show it's okay to use a calculator. And that is feet. Okay, so that's our answer in feet. It says down here that we're supposed to answer in inches as well. So you have to remember that 12 inches is the same thing as 1 foot. So if you have something in feet and you want to know the inches, just multiply by 12. So if you take 0.2 and we times that by 12, we will have our inches. 2.4 inches. That would be how many inches it is. Here's how many feet. Your teacher may get you to change that 0.4 into an actual fraction of an inch, and you can do that. But in this video, I'm just showing the basics for now. I have other videos that show how to change this into inches more properly. Instead of it being a decimal, it would be 2 and something. It would be some fraction of an inch. Okay? I won't get into that here because I don't want this video to take forever. Here we have another question. If we have a 20-foot length this time, what would be the total fall if we had a grade of 1/4 inch per foot? Okay, so write down the formula. They're asking total fall. Write down what we know from this triangle. Length times grade. There we go. You can push pause if you want to. Go ahead of me here. Length is 20 feet. And the grade, this one's a little different. It doesn't have a percent like we had before. 1/4 inch per foot. Well, do you remember earlier on in the video, we want to change this 1/4 inch per foot into a percent. So 1/4 inch per foot is 0.25 divided by, we don't divide by 1, we divide by 12 because we need both of these to be in the same unit. There's 12 inches in 1 foot. So 1/4 inches divided by 12 inches will give us our percent that we were looking for as a decimal. So I divided by 12. There we go. Now, it's not just 2%. It's 0.02. Let's go back and look. 0.83 repeated. 0.83 repeated. Okay. So we need to multiply that. And what I'm going to do to get the most accurate answer possible, I'm going to keep this long decimal on the calculator, and I'm just going to multiply it by that number that we were supposed to multiply by, which was 20. And it's okay to multiply that way. You can multiply backwards or forwards, and you'll get the same answer no matter what. 3 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 3. So I'm putting this number and multiplying by 20. And we get, this one I'm going to round off, 0.4167. 0.4167. Okay, that would be feet. Because this was in feet over here, this answer is in feet. So you could have 0.42 feet. You could have this many decimals. It depends on your teacher, how many decimals they want to see there. It says to do this in inches as well. So if you recall, we can take this number and multiply it. Because this is in feet, we multiply by 12. And that gives us, wow, that's actually a nice answer. Gives us 5 feet, or 5 inches. It gives us 5 inches. So here's our 2 answers that we just found. Let's go on to another question and keep practicing with this, okay, until we get really good with it. If the total fall is 7 inches and the length is 20 feet, what would the grade be? This time they're asking for grade. So look down here, we have grade. And what's the formula? We need to go total fall, not times. We have to divide by the length. So total fall is 7 inches. And we have to divide by the length, which is 20 feet. Okay, in a situation like this, people, there are 2 different units here. First of all, we should make these units the same. We should either change inches to feet, or we should change these feet into inches. It's actually easier. It's easier to change 20 feet into inches because, as you recall, to change feet into inches, all we have to do is times by, see if you can remember it, times by 12. Okay? So 20 feet times 12. It's going to be a big number. That's 240 inches. Okay? Now when we divide using our calculator, we're going to get a decimal. And that's going to be a nice way to get our percent, which I see is what is one of the ways they're asking us to answer this question. We'll think about this one after. Okay, so let's take our calculator and go 7 divided by 240. See if I can remember this. 0.029167. I just rounded off. The 6 goes on and on and on. Okay? So that is in, oh sorry, that's not in inches. Take away that. That is our decimal. If we were to say that's a percent, we would move the decimal over 2 places. It'd be, or 2.9167%. And who knows, your teacher may just want you to round it off to 3%. You could say, or approximately 3%. It depends on the teacher, okay? So if they were asking in inches per foot, we could go back here. Let's go back up here, and I'm going to put it in a different color. Inches per feet. Over here we see inches, 7 inches, and 20 feet. We would like to know 7 inches over 20 feet. Inches per foot, we want to know how many inches, I'm going to say X, over 1 foot. Just 1 foot. So 20 divided by 20 would give us 1. So 20 divided by 20 gives us 1. What would 7 divided by 20 be? And that would be the answer we were looking for. So what's 7 divided by 20? 0.35. So 0.35 inches per foot. Okay? So that would be about a 3% grade in this case, or 0.35 inches per foot. It would be a little steeper than what they want in Ontario. Here they want 2%. Let's go to another question. What if the length, or sorry, what is the length if the total fall is 15 feet and the grade is 3%? Okay, they're asking for the length. So first of all, get the formula set up. Length equals, look at your handy dandy triangle, total fall divided by grade. Total fall divided by the grade. So total fall is 15 feet, and we're going to divide by the grade, which is 3%. Remember to change this to a decimal. This question is going to be a lot quicker than the last one. So 15 feet, whoops, divided by 0.03. 500. Wow, that worked out nice. 500 feet. Wow. So our answer automatically is in feet because we were dealing with feet right here, and this is a percent. And so the unit will stay the same if you're doing that. And so that would be 500 feet would be the total length. Let's go to the next question. That one was nice and quick. What is the length if the total fall is 10 feet and the grade is 1/4 inch per foot? Little trick here. They want the length again, so let's write that down. Length is total fall divided by grade. Use our handy dandy formula. Okay. The total fall is 10 feet. This time, the grade is 1/4 inches per foot. Again, just like before, change this into a decimal, just like we did in the last questions. 1/4 inches is 0.25 inches. And let's change it to a decimal, kind of like a percent, a decimal version of a percent. Don't divide by 1. Divide by how many feet are in an inch, which is 12. I'm kind of skipping some steps because you've already been shown this earlier in this video a couple times. So 0.25 divided by 12. We know it's a really long decimal. It's a really long decimal that will go here. 0.25 divided by 12. So 0.0208. And then 3 repeated. Okay, so we're going to take 10 and divide it by this. When you do these questions, to get an accurate answer, please use many, many decimals here, as many as possible. Okay, so we're going to go 10 divided by 0.0208 and a bunch of 3's. I'm going to just put a bunch, just to get the answer as accurate as possible. As you can see on here, there is some decimal, but it's so close to 480. I'm just going to leave it at 480. To round it off would be silly to put these decimals down here. So 480 feet is fine here as an answer. 480 feet. And that would be our answer. Okay, so that's a really long length. Okay, let's see a next question. What is the grade if the total fall is 3 feet and the length is 150 feet? Okay, we have the units are the same here. Let's write down the formula. The grade, or capital G if you want, is the total fall divided by the length. So total fall is 3 feet divided by the length, which is 150 feet. This is going to be a quick question. You just divide these numbers, and we will know the grade in a decimal form, and then we just change it into a percent. Okay? So 3 divided by 150. There we go. It's 0.02. And change that into a percent. Move this decimal over 2 places, or multiply by 100 to change a decimal form of a percent into a percent. It would be 2%. Nice, and that's the percent that's most common in Ontario. Is there any other questions? There is. What is the grade if the total fall is 7 inches and the length is 20 feet? Okay, once again, what's the grade? The grade is equal to total fall. You must know how to do this by now. I'm just going through lots of examples. Total fall is 7 inches. This question, the numbers are not the same unit, as you can see. The length is 20 feet. When you do this, when you're finding the grade, we need to have these be the same unit. And we learned before that it's easier to change inches into, it's easier to change feet into inches just by multiplying 20 by 12, because there's 20 inches in 1 foot. So 20 times 12, you don't need to use a calculator if you don't want to, but I'm just showing you on the calculator. 20 times 12 is 240. And now we can divide. 7 divided by 240 should give us the answer we're looking for. 7 divided by 240. 0.02916. Now, to change this into a percent, you're going to move it over 2 places. That'll be like 2.9%. Something like that. 2.9%. It's really, really, really close to 3% in this case. But it depends on your teacher if they want to see it in a decimal or if they just want you to approximate it and say that's 3%. Because honestly, these two things are so minutely different, I don't think you'd be able to tell when it comes to plumbing the difference between 2.9% and 3% grade. Okay? Things are going to flow well with either of those two numbers. Okay, well, hopefully now you could take a triangle and you could say total fall is equal to length times grade. And if someone said, what's the grade? You would go total fall divided by length. If someone say, what's the length? You would say, that's total fall divided by grade. And you're also familiar with changing feet into inches or inches into feet, whichever is needed. You know about decimals, percents, and all that stuff. Hopefully this video helped, and hope you have a good day.